In the middle of our wedding, my husband suddenly slapped me in front of everyone after his sister whispered something to him. For a moment, the whole room went silent in shock. But instead of crying or running away, I looked him straight in the eyes and lifted my head high. What I did next, right in front of the guests, completely ruined him. Can you imagine standing at your own wedding, barely married, the champagne still fizzing, when suddenly, the man you just vowed to love forever slaps you? Not just a little shove, but a sickening crack that echoes through a stunned garden of 200 guests, leaving your cheek throbbing and your world utterly, irrevocably shattered. That was my wedding day. And what happened next? Well, that's where the real story begins. A story of betrayal, lies, a shocking comeuppance, and how I found the strength to walk away and build a life more powerful than any fairy tale. But to truly understand the fire that ignited in me at that moment, that perfect, terrible ruin, we need to rewind a bit. We need to go back to the darkest day of my life. I met Julian Clark when I was 26, raw and gutted. My mother had just died, pancreatic cancer, swift and cruel. I was standing in the funeral home parking lot, trying to remember how to breathe, suffocating under the weight of grief. The air tasted like exhaust and cut grass, and my black dress felt too tight, like a corset of sorrow. I just couldn't go back inside, couldn't listen to one more person tell me she was in a better place. You know the drill. Time heals all wounds.
Lies.
Time doesn't heal a damn thing. It just teaches you how to walk around with the wound, how to pretend you're not bleeding. I was pressed against my hot car, desperate for anything but the pain, when I heard footsteps. "You look like you need this more than I do," a voice said. I looked up.
Julian.
Tall, lean, with dark hair and those unusual sea glass eyes. He held out a silver flask. "I don't drink with strangers," I mumbled. He took a sip himself, then offered it again. "Now we're not strangers. I'm Julian." I took it. The whiskey burned, but it was a different kind of burn than grief. A cleaner pain. We stood there for a long time, passing the flask, not talking, just existing in our separate griefs, together. That's how it started. That's how he slipped into the raw, open space my mother's death had left behind. Julian was a real estate developer, ambitious, successful, with that particular brand of confidence that comes from never truly being broken. His family had old money, the kind that whispers rather than shouts. He told me his own mother died young, that he understood loss. But understanding loss and living inside it are two very different things. He courted me like something out of a classic movie, flowers to my junior accountant office, dinners at places I couldn't dream of affording, weekend trips where he'd trace my spine with his fingertips. "You're different," he'd whisper. "Everyone else just wants something from me. You just want me." God help me, I believed him. I believed every word. Then came Veronica, Julian's sister. 3 years younger, same sharp cheekbones, but her eyes held ice where his held warmth. We met for brunch, and she arrived 20 minutes late, wearing a dress that probably cost my monthly rent. She kissed Julian, then extended a limp hand to me. "So, you're the accountant?" she drawled, her lip curling ever so slightly. How quaint. Julian always did have a thing for strays. Julian gave her a warning glance, but the damage was done. That should have been my first clue, shouldn't it? But I was so desperate to be loved, so eager to fill the gaping void my mother had left, that I brushed it off. I told myself she was just protective. I was wrong about so many things. Julian proposed on the anniversary of my mother's death, back in that same funeral home parking lot. At first, I thought it was cruel, but then I saw what he'd done. String lights, a violinist playing something soft and haunting, rose petals covering the ground. In the center, he knelt, holding a platinum ring with a 3-carat diamond. "You've made me believe in second chances," he said, his voice cracking. "Marry me, please." I said yes. How could I not? The ring felt heavy, weighted with promise and possibility. I let myself believe the universe was finally paying me back. We set the date for 18 months away. Veronica insisted on being my maid of honor. "We're going to be sisters," she cooed, squeezing my hand. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But at every dress fitting, every cake tasting, every vendor meeting, I caught her watching me with those cold eyes. And sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd whisper something to Julian, and his expression would darken before smoothing into a smile. "What does she keep telling you?" I asked him once. "Nothing important," he'd say. "She's just stressed."
But it did bother me.
It burrowed under my skin like a splinter. 3 months before the wedding, everything changed. 2 pink lines. I was pregnant. My hands shook so badly, I could barely hold the stick. Julian's child. The timing was terrible. We'd agreed to wait. But here it was. Life, refusing to follow our careful plans. I decided to tell him that night. I even bought a tiny onesie that said, "Worth the wait." I was nervous, but so excited. This was our future. Proof that something good could come from all the pain. I arrived at his apartment early, using the key he'd given me. The lights were off, but I heard voices from the bedroom. Julian's and another female. My heart stopped. For a terrible second, I thought, but no, it was Veronica. I crept closer, not meaning to eavesdrop, but unable to stop myself. The door was cracked. I could see them sitting on the edge of the bed, their backs to me. "You have to tell her before the wedding," Veronica was saying. "It's not fair to let her walk into this blind." "I can't." Julian's voice was thick with what? Guilt? Fear? "If she finds out, she'll leave. Then maybe she should leave. This is a disaster waiting to happen, and you know it." "I love her."
Do you?
Or do you love the idea of her? The sweet, broken little orphan who worships the ground you walk on. Veronica's voice was pure acid. "But I've done the research, Julian. Her financial history is a mess. Credit card debt, student loans, a bankruptcy when she was 22.
She's using you."
She saw dollar signs and a way out of her pathetic little life and latched on. Just like, don't. Julian's voice cracked like a whip. "Don't compare her to Mom." A long silence. Then Veronica's voice, softer now, more dangerous. "I'm just trying to protect you. You know what happened to Dad after Mom died? How that woman swooped in, played the grieving widow, and walked away with half his fortune. I won't let the same thing happen to you." My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp, a sob. Credit card debt? Bankruptcy? Yes, I'd had financial troubles. In my early 20s, like so many people. But I'd worked my way out. Slowly. Painfully. And I had never seen Julian as a meal ticket. Had I? The doubt crept in like poison gas. Had some unconscious part of me been drawn to his stability, his wealth, the security my life had always lacked?
No.
I loved him for who he was. But standing there, in the darkness, listening to them dissect my character, my motives, my worth, something inside me cracked. Something I didn't even know was fragile until it broke. I backed away silently. I left the apartment, the onesie still in my purse, unwrapped, the secret of our child unspoken. I didn't tell him what I'd overheard. I tried to convince myself I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood. But the words echoed in my head for weeks. "He's using you. Pathetic little life. Just like Mom." The wedding preparations accelerated into a frenzied blur. My morning sickness worsened, but I hid it. I smiled through the fittings, the rehearsal dinner, the endless stream of arriving relatives. Julian seemed distracted, working late, taking calls in other rooms. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Are you happy?" I asked him one night, a week before the wedding. He was quiet for too long. "I love you," he finally said. It wasn't the same as yes. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but I was terrified of what I might hear. So, I let it go, swallowing the question with all the other unspoken things between us. Veronica threw me a bridal shower that felt more like an interrogation. His aunts and cousins asked pointed questions about my family, my background, my career plans. Someone mentioned a prenuptial agreement. When I said we hadn't discussed one, the room went silent. Veronica smiled. "Oh, how modern of you both." But her eyes said something else entirely. That night, I asked Julian about it. He looked uncomfortable. My lawyer mentioned it, but I told him no. I don't want to start our marriage assuming it'll fail.
He looked at me.
I trust you. But did he really? The doubt was a living thing now, coiled in my stomach alongside our growing child. The morning of the wedding was chaos wrapped in silk and lace. I woke up nauseous, a routine now, but today was worse. Nerves, a bridesmaid said.
No.
Our baby, making its presence known. I still hadn't told Julian. The moment never felt right. Now, it was our wedding day. I'd wait until tonight, until we were alone, until everything was official and binding. Veronica came to my dressing room an hour before the ceremony. You look beautiful, she said, but the compliment felt hollow. She studied my reflection. Can I tell you something? Sister to sister? My stomach clenched. Julian's been through a lot. Our mother's death nearly destroyed our father. He became paranoid, convinced every woman wanted his money. Julian's terrified of becoming like him, of being used. She paused, her eyes meeting mine. Just be patient with him. I'm only trying to protect my brother. She squeezed my shoulder and left, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive, cold perfume. The music swelled. The doors opened. I walked down the aisle, clinging to my uncle's arm, my mother's brother, the only family I had left. Julian stood at the altar, looking like every dream I'd ever had. His eyes locked on mine. For a moment, just a moment, everything else fell away. This was real. This was happening. We exchanged vows, exchanged rings. He lifted my veil. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. He kissed me. The guests applauded. I tasted salt. I didn't know if it was his tears or mine. We walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, rose petals drifting like snow. People were smiling, cameras flashed. Everything was perfect. And then we moved to the garden reception. Cocktail hour. The golden light painting everything in amber. Julian and I stood near the fountain, accepting congratulations. His hand was on the small of my back, warm, possessive. Excuse me for a moment, he said, kissing my temple. I need to speak with my father. He stepped away. I was immediately surrounded by his business associates. I answered automatically, my responses smooth and practiced, but I was watching Julian. He was talking to his father. And then Veronica appeared. She touched his elbow, drawing him aside, away from the crowd. I couldn't hear, but I could see her lips moving rapidly. She pulled something from her purse, a folded piece of paper. She handed it to Julian. He opened it, read it, and I watched his face change. It was like watching ice form over water. Everything in him went cold and hard. His jaw clenched. His hands, those hands that had touched me so gently just hours before, crumpled the paper into a tight ball. He looked up. His eyes found mine across the garden, and there was nothing in them I recognized. He started walking toward me. The crowd parted. Something in his expression made people step back. My heart pounded. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it was bad. I could feel it in my bones. Julian. My voice came out smaller than I intended. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the champagne on his breath, see the muscle jumping in his jaw. Is it true? His voice was low, dangerous. Is what true? I don't. And then his hand moved.
Fast.
Brutal. The crack of his palm against my cheek echoed across the garden like a gunshot. Pain exploded through my face. I stumbled sideways, nearly losing my balance. My veil slipped. My vision blurred with tears that were part pain, part shock. The entire reception went silent. I touched my burning cheek, tasted blood, looked up at him, my husband of less than an hour, and saw a stranger staring back at me. How could you? His voice broke. How could you do this to me? My mind was spinning. He'd hit me. In front of everyone. On our wedding day. Veronica stood behind him, hand over her mouth, eyes wide. But there was something else in her expression. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. And then I understood. Whatever was on that paper, whatever Veronica had told him, it was a lie. It had to be. She'd been waiting for this moment. Orchestrating it. Setting me up from the very beginning. The rage that swept through me was cleaner, than anything I'd ever felt. It burned away the pain, the confusion, the hurt. It left only clarity. I straightened, lifted my chin, and looked my husband dead in the eye. "Ask me what you think I did," I said, my voice steady as stone. "Say it out loud. Whatever you're accusing me of, say it." Julian's face twisted. "You know what you did. The money. The offshore accounts. You've been stealing from my company for the past year." His voice rose, raw with betrayal. "Veronica showed me the evidence. Bank statements, wire transfers, all traced back to you. You've embezzled nearly $500,000. The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. $500,000. Embezzlement. Offshore accounts. I almost laughed. It was so absurd, so obviously fabricated that for a moment I couldn't comprehend how anyone would believe it. "Show me," I said. "What?" "Show me this evidence. Let everyone see it." Julian hesitated. He looked at Veronica, who quickly stepped forward. "I don't think this is the place. Show me." I held out my hand. Julian pulled the crumpled paper from his pocket and smoothed it out. A printout. Bank statements, account numbers, transaction records. My name highlighted in yellow. Hundreds of transfers, each for several thousand, all funneling into an account in the Cayman Islands. I studied it. The forgery was good. Professional. Someone had spent real time and money creating this. "These are fake," I stated calmly. "Don't." Julian's voice cracked. "Don't lie to me anymore. I had my lawyer verify everything. The account exists. The money is real. Your signature is on the transfer authorizations. Then your lawyer is incompetent or in on it." I turned to face the crowd. Some looked away, embarrassed. Others leaned forward, hungry for the drama. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. "I have never stolen a single dollar from my husband. I have never opened an offshore account. I have never signed transfer authorizations. This is a fabrication." I turned back to Julian. "And I can prove it."
"How?"
Veronica's voice was sharp. I smiled at her, a cold, terrible smile. "Because I'm an accountant. And I spent the last 6 months reviewing every single financial document in Julian's company, preparing to merge our finances after the wedding. I know every account, every transaction, every signature. And these," I held up the papers, "are not mine." I walked to a nearby table, pulled my phone from my maid of honor's purse, opened my email, and found the folder I'd been building, just in case. "These," I said, holding up the phone, "are the real financial records of Clark Development. And you know what I found when I was reviewing them? Interesting patterns. Money moving in ways that don't make sense. Payments to shell companies. Invoices for work that was never done." Julian's face had gone pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about embezzlement. Real embezzlement. Someone has been stealing from your company for years, and I know who." I looked at Veronica. "It's you." Veronica laughed. Actually laughed. "That's insane. Why would I steal from my own family?" "Because your father cut you off 2 years ago, didn't he? After you blew through your trust fund gambling. Because you have debts that would bury you if they came to light. Because you saw your brother's company as a piggy bank, and you knew exactly how to access it without getting caught." I pulled up a spreadsheet on my phone. Until I started looking. Until I noticed that every shell company you created to funnel money traces back to a single law firm. Your boyfriend's law firm. The same boyfriend you've been hiding from your family because they'd never approve of you dating someone so far beneath your social class. Her face went white. "You're lying. Am I? Want me to show everyone his name? Want me to explain how he helped you create fake vendors, false invoices, dummy corporations? How you've stolen over $3 million in the past 5 years alone?" The crowd gasped. Julian staggered backward like I'd hit him. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Veronica would never." "She would."
"Yes."
"And she's been terrified that I'd discover it. That's why she's been poisoning you against me from the beginning. That's why she fabricated this evidence tonight. She was hoping you'd divorce me immediately before I could finish my audit. Before I could expose her." I turned to Veronica. She was shaking, her perfect composure cracking. You almost got away with it. You're clever. The accounts are well hidden. But you made one mistake. You used the same routing number for multiple transfers. Once I spotted the pattern, the rest unraveled fast. Julian was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her before. Veronica. Julian, she's lying. But her voice was weak now. You can't believe her. She's just trying to deflect.
Prove it, I said.
Let's call the police right now. Let them investigate. Let's see whose accounts hold up under scrutiny. Mine or yours? Silence. Long and terrible. Then Veronica's face did something strange. The fear vanished. Her expression went smooth and cold as glass. You stupid little bitch, she said softly. You think you've won? I think the truth is going to come out one way or another. The truth? She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The truth is that Julian never loved you. I made sure of that. Every doubt I planted, every suspicion I nurtured, it was all real. Deep down, he never trusted you. He never believed you loved him for who he was. She turned to her brother.
Tell her.
Tell her how many nights you stayed awake wondering if she was using you. Tell her about the private investigator you hired to dig into her past. Julian's face confirmed it. He had. He'd actually hired someone to investigate me. Something inside me finally, irrevocably broke. You hired a private investigator? My voice was flat. You married me while believing I might be a con artist? I just needed to be sure, he mumbled. You didn't trust me, I stated hollowly. Not ever. Not once. I wanted to. I tried. You hit me. I touched my still burning cheek. In front of 200 people. You struck me without asking questions. Without giving me a chance to defend myself. You believed her over me. Shame finally crossed his features. But it was too late. Much, much too late. I took a breath, made my decision. I want you to know something, I said, my voice carrying across the silent garden. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out 3 months ago, and I didn't tell you because I overheard you and Veronica discussing how I was just using you for your money. I was waiting for the right moment, hoping it would prove to you that my love was real. I pulled the small, wrapped package from my purse, the onesie I'd been carrying for months, and threw it at his feet. Congratulations. You're going to be a father with a woman you don't trust, who you physically assaulted in front of everyone you know on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. The gasps from the crowd were audible now. Phones were out, recording everything. Julian's face had gone gray. You're pregnant? I was going to tell you tonight. I had it all planned. But now I looked at him, really looked at the man I'd given 3 years of my life to, and felt nothing but cold, clean rage. Now, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to divorce you before the ink on our marriage certificate is dry. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. The kind who believes lies over the woman carrying his child. The kind who solves problems with violence. I turned to the crowd. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I'm glad you did. Because now you all know the truth about the Clark family. About what happens behind the gates of their estate. About the rot. Beneath the money and the power and the perfect image. I started walking. My feet hurt. My face throbbed. My heart felt like it was tearing. Behind me, I heard Julian call my name. Wait. Please. We can fix this. We can. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Out of the garden, through the estate, toward the front gates where I knew my uncle was waiting with the car. Behind me, chaos erupted, shouting, Veronica's voice rising in denial, Julian's father demanding explanations, guests whispering, phones buzzing, the story already spreading like wildfire. I didn't care. I was done. Finished. The wedding dress was ruined anyway. The story went viral by midnight. Videos of the slap. Videos of my accusation. Videos of me walking away, the train of my wedding dress dragging through the grass, my head held high. By morning I was famous. Not the kind of famous anyone wants to be, but famous nonetheless. The slapped bride. The wedding revenge. The accountant who destroyed a dynasty. The news picked it up. Social media exploded. Think pieces appeared about domestic violence, about wealth and power, about the dangers of marrying into money. Julian tried to call. I blocked his number. He sent emails. Deleted. He showed up at my apartment. I called the police. His lawyer sent divorce papers within a week. I signed them gladly. But I also hired my own lawyer, a good one, the kind who smelled blood in the water. We went after everything: the community property, the assets accumulated during our brief marriage, compensation for emotional distress. And we went after Veronica. The audit I'd started proved everything. The police got involved. Federal investigators. It was bigger than anyone had realized. Over $5 million stolen across 7 years, funneled through a network of fake companies and offshore accounts. Her boyfriend was arrested. Julian's company nearly collapsed. His father had a stress-induced heart attack. The family name, so carefully cultivated, was destroyed. I felt nothing watching it burn. No satisfaction, no regret, just a hollow kind of tiredness. I moved across the country. California, San Diego, where the weather was always perfect and no one knew my face. I had the baby, a girl. She had Julian's eyes and my mother's chin, and a fierce scream that made the nurses laugh. I named her Grace, after my mother. Julian tried to establish visitation rights. My lawyer fought him. The video of the slap was shown in family court. The judge's expression was carved from ice. You struck your pregnant wife in public, she said. You'll have supervised visitation only, pending completion of anger management and family counseling. And you will pay child support. Substantial child support. He left the courtroom looking like a ghost. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for Grace, who would grow up with a father who'd never really be present. Sad for the girl I'd been, the one who thought love could heal all wounds. But I built a life anyway. I started my own accounting firm, specializing in forensic audits. Turns out there's good money in exposing embezzlers and financial fraud. Who knew? Grace grew. She learned to smile, to laugh, to crawl. She filled the apartment with noise and chaos and love. My uncle helped. Friends from my old life reached out. I wasn't alone. And slowly, carefully, I learned to be happy again. Not the explosive, desperate happiness I'd felt with Julian. Something quieter, steadier. I was in my office when the call came. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. It's me. Julian's voice, older somehow. Tired. I should hang up, but curiosity held me. What do you want? I wanted you to know. Veronica was sentenced today. 15 years, federal prison. I know. I read about it. I also wanted to say, he paused. I could hear him breathing, gathering courage. I'm sorry. For everything. You were right about all of it. I didn't trust you. I let her poison me against you. And I hit you. I hate myself for that every single day. Good. Another pause. How's Grace? She's perfect. You'll see her next month for your supervised visit, right? Yes. He cleared his throat. Are you happy? I looked around my office. Diplomas on the wall. Photos of Grace on my desk. Case files stacked neatly in the corner. The life I'd built from ashes and rage and sheer, stubborn will. Yes, I said. I am.
Good.
That's good. His voice cracked. I really did love you, you know. I just didn't know how to trust it. I know. If I could go back, but you can't. None of us can. We just have to live with what we've done. Silence. Then, quietly, goodbye. Goodbye, Julian. I hung up, looked at Grace's photo. She was grinning, ice cream smeared across her face. Pure joy radiating from every pixel. She would never see me crumble the way I almost had. She would grow up knowing that her mother had stood up, brushed off the ashes, and built something beautiful from the ruins. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery. I'm writing this from a place you'll never visit. The irony isn't lost on me. I spent years stealing money to maintain a lifestyle I thought I deserved. And now I'm in a cell that costs taxpayers $40,000 a year. I'm not writing to apologize. We both know I'm not sorry for what I did to Julian's company. I'm only sorry I got caught. But I am sorry for what I did to you. You were collateral damage in a war you didn't even know you were fighting. My war against my father's favoritism. My brother's golden boy status. My own inadequacy. You walked into our family believing love was enough. And I made it my mission to prove you were just another gold digger. The truth? I was jealous. You had something I've never had. The ability to love without calculation, to give without keeping score. Julian saw that in you, and it terrified him because it was real. And I couldn't stand watching him have something I knew I'd never find. So I destroyed it. I destroyed you. I destroyed him. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you were right about everything. Every accusation. Every ugly truth you threw in my face that day. And I wanted you to know something else. You won. Not because you exposed me. Not because you walked away. But because you survived. Because you're raising my niece somewhere, building a life, being happy. That's the thing I can't forgive you for. Not that you ruined us, but that you didn't let us ruin you. I read the letter 3 times. Then I burned it in the sink, watching the expensive paper curl, blacken, and turn to ash. Grace was napping in the next room. Through the window, I could see the ocean, endless and blue, and indifferent to human drama. I thought about writing back, about telling Veronica that she was wrong, that they had ruined me in ways I was still discovering. That some nights I woke up gasping, dreaming of that moment when Julian's hand connected with my face. That I flinched when men raised their voices. That I questioned every kindness, looking for the trap beneath it. But I didn't write back. Because the truth was more complicated than either victory or defeat. They had broken something in me. But I had rebuilt myself from the pieces. And the new version was stronger. Harder. Less willing to bend. Less willing to believe that love required me to shrink. Maybe that was winning. Or maybe it was just survival. Either way, I was here. I was standing. I was whole enough. And that would have to be enough. Grace was 3 years old when Julian showed up at my door again. Not the broken man who'd called me. Not the ghost who showed up for supervised visits, barely able to meet my eyes. This was someone different. Older, gray around the temples. But there was a stillness in his face that hadn't been there before. I know I shouldn't be here, he said. But I needed to give you this. He held out a thick, legal-looking envelope. I didn't take it. What is it? Veronica died 2 weeks ago. Lung cancer. It was fast. I felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction, just a distant acknowledgement. Why are you telling me? Because she left something for you. For Grace. He pushed the envelope toward me. Please, just take it. I took it. Inside was a legal document. A trust fund. $2 million placed in Grace's name, inaccessible until she turned 25. An attached note read, "For the girl I'll never meet. So she'll never have to marry for security. So she'll never have to wonder if she's worthy of love without strings. So she can be what I never was, free. Your aunt, who loved you in the only way she knew how. From a distance with money, making sure you'd never need to become me." I stared at the document for a long time. Julian stood on my doorstep, waiting. She spent the last year of her life setting this up, he said quietly. She wanted to make sure it couldn't be contested, that it would be airtight. She said. He swallowed hard. She said it was the only good thing she'd ever done. It doesn't change anything. I know. It doesn't make her a good person. I know that too. But Grace will have options. Security. A foundation. I looked up at him. Thank you for bringing this. He nodded, started to turn away, then stopped. I'm in therapy. Real therapy, not the court-mandated kind. I'm working on. He gestured helplessly. Everything. The anger. The trust issues. The damage my family did to me and I did to you. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. Good. And I wanted you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though I destroyed it. Even though I didn't deserve it. His eyes were wet. You and Grace, you're the only real things I ever had. Julian, I'm not trying to win you back. I know. That's impossible. I just needed to say it, once out loud. He stepped back. Take care of yourself. Both of you. He walked away, down the path to his car and drove away. I stood there, holding $2 million in a trust fund created by a dead woman who'd hated me and loved me and destroyed me, and in the end, tried to save my daughter from her own legacy. Grace called from inside. Mama, come see. I closed the door, locked it, put the envelope in my desk drawer, and went to see what my daughter had built with her blocks. Something precarious and colorful and held together with the absolute certainty that only a 3-year-old possesses. Look, she said proudly. It's a castle, and nothing can knock it down because I made it strong. I kissed the top of her head. That's right, baby. You made it strong. And that's all that matters. Grace grows. She's 7 now, then 10, then 13. She asks questions about her father, about the wedding day she's heard whispered about but never fully understood. I tell her the truth. Age-appropriate versions at first, then more detail as she gets older. I even show her the video. Yes, it's still out there, immortal in the way internet infamy always is. I let her see the moment her father struck me. The moment I stood tall. The moment I walked away. Were you scared, she asks. Terrified. But you did it anyway. Yes. Why? I think about this, about how to distill years of pain and growth and hard-won wisdom into something a 13-year-old can understand. Because staying would have taught you the wrong lesson. It would have taught you that love means accepting cruelty. That marriage means silence. That being hit is something you forgive and forget and pretend didn't happen. I take her hand. I wanted you to grow up knowing that you're worth more than that. That we're both worth more. She's quiet for a long time. Did you love him? Yes, very much. Do you still?
No.
I love who I thought he was. But that person never really existed. The real Julian was too damaged, too afraid, too poisoned by his family to be the partner I needed. I squeezed her hand. But I got you. And you're real. You're the best thing that came from all of it. She leans her head on my shoulder. I'm glad you walked away. Me too, baby. Me too. Julian remarried eventually. A quiet woman, a therapist, actually. Someone who understood his damage and chose to love him anyway. They had a son. He sent me a photo. I texted back, congratulations, and meant it. My uncle passed away when Grace was 12. We mourned him together, planting a tree in his memory. Grace gave the eulogy at his funeral, poised and brave and heartbreaking. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. I wasn't sure I wanted serious. I'd learned to be happy alone, with Grace, with the life we'd built. Adding someone else felt risky, unnecessary. But there was a man eventually, a teacher at Grace's school. Kind eyes, patient. He'd been through his own divorce, raised his own kids, understood that some doors inside me would always be locked. I'm not looking to save you, he told me on our 3rd date. You're not broken. You're just careful. And that's okay. We took it slow. You're slow. Grace graduated high school before I let him move in. But it worked. It was good. It was real. Not passionate like Julian. Not consuming but steady. They built on truth instead of fantasy. And that, I learned, was its own kind of love story. People still recognize me sometimes. The video has been viewed millions of times. The Slapped Bride is a cautionary tale, a revenge fantasy, a symbol of female empowerment, or everything wrong with cancel culture. Depending on who's talking, I don't care anymore. Let them project whatever they need onto that moment. Let them turn it into a meme, a think piece, a case study. I know what it really was. The end of one story, and the beginning of another. The first story was about a girl who thought love meant sacrifice. Who believed that if she was just good enough, pure enough, loving enough, She could heal a damaged man and build a perfect life from the ruins of her grief. The second story is about a woman who knows better, who understands that you can't love someone into wholeness. That trust is the foundation of everything. That violence, even once, even in public, even with an apology, is never acceptable. That walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. My daughter is applying to colleges now. She wants to study law, fight for domestic violence survivors. She says I inspire her, but I think she's just braver than I ever was. She didn't have to learn strength from breaking. She was born into it, raised in it, breathing it like air. The trust fund Veronica left will pay for her education. The life insurance from my uncle will supplement it. And the business I built, the accounting firm that specializes in exposing financial abusers, is thriving. I've helped dozens of women escape relationships built on economic control. I've testified in court. I've frozen assets, found hidden money, proved the patterns of theft and manipulation that keep victims trapped. I turn my nightmare into my life's work. And every time I help someone escape, every time I watch recognition dawn in a client's eyes as they realize they're not crazy, they're not imagining things, they're being systematically robbed and gaslit, every time that happens, I think about that moment in the garden. The moment Julian's hand connected with my face. The moment I decided not to crumble. The moment I looked at him, at Veronica, at the 200 guests, and chose myself. That moment changed everything. Not because it made me stronger. I was always strong. But because it showed me that I was allowed to use that strength. That I didn't have to shrink. That I could stand in the wreckage of my dreams and say, this is not acceptable. I am worth more. I deserve better. And then walk toward the life that proved it. So, yes, my husband slapped me in the middle of our wedding. And what I did next, standing tall, speaking truth, walking away, rebuilding, surviving, thriving, didn't just ruin him. It saved me. And in the end, that was always the more important story.